All right, everybody. Welcome to the Audio Production Town Hall, where you will find us each and every month discussing all sorts of audio-related topics, from music production to audio post-production to game audio and everything in between. So I'm Eric Berzins. I'm the course director of Project and Portfolio 5, and today we are joined by Andrew Scott, who is a Full Sail grad from 2011, Recording Arts. He's a sound designer at Intrepid Studios. So how's it going, Andrew?
Hey, nice to be here.
Glad to have you. So you are currently working in game audio, and before that you worked in audio post-production at Rooster Teeth and many other things. When you were a student here, did you kind of know that you wanted to get into sound design in that area of the industry, or was that something you figured out later after you graduated?
I mean, when I was a kid, I was more into film, actually. Me and my friends would like shoot stupid little videos together, and somehow I always end up being the person taking care of the audio side of things, whether that be music or sound effects or whatever. Obviously, it wasn't very great back then when I was a kid, but yeah, slowly got better over time. And I didn't think too much about it, and I was more interested in the film side of things. So I came to Full Sail to tour the campus. Specifically looking at the film degree. But then I mentioned to one of the advisors that I was interested in the audio side of things. And, you know, Full Sail has a great audio degree program, had several at that point. And they say, well, you know, you can learn a little bit about audio, the audio side of things, if you do the film degree, but not very much. And you get way more in depth of a look at it if you did the audio degree instead. And I'd already, you know, taken a pretty big interest in audio at that point. You know, I was in my radio, I was in a radio class in high school, and I really loved that. I was working on the Digi Design. It was one of the old consoles, the first one for consumers that had the automated faders, like the mechanical faders. And I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And, you know, digging around in Pro Tools and learning about that. So, yeah, like decided, well, I'm just going to go the audio route and learn about audio at Full Sail. And definitely took more of a focus on post-production side, which was more uncommon among the students in that particular degree. But I loved it. And it was really cool getting access to all the cool audio suites and the sound library and everything. It was like kid in the candy store.
So what was how'd you get your first gig doing it? Like after you graduated, what was your first kind of industry job doing sound design?
Yeah, the first half a year to a year or so, I just kind of, you know, did whatever I could to make ends meet while kind of looking around trying to find an in. And luckily I was able to get in with a advertising and broadcast motion graphics studio who needed an audio person. And basically they, you know, had me do a project, told the client, like, look, you know, we're having this new audio guy on, he's going to try it out. We're not going to charge you for it, but if you like it, then use it. If not, no worries. And the client loved it, and so they basically hit me up and said, hey, can you come in to talk with us on Monday?
Nice.
And ended up getting a full-time from that. And yeah, worked with a bunch of cool clients, CNN, Cartoon Network, HGTV. It was a really cool experience.
Nice. And then that transitioned into, I know you worked at Rooster Teeth for a number of years doing sound design for animation. And then now you transitioned more into a game audio role at Intrepid Studios. So what's been comparing, contrasting, like how's the difference in workflow and all that?
Yeah, I guess I've technically touched on all the different areas of audio you can potentially be in, barring some more specialized ones. Like advertising and broadcast was very fast paced. Get stuff out rapid. It had an air date, you know, so you had very hard deadlines, and that could be challenging at times, but it kind of forged my, ability to work fast and make decisions on the fly. And then, eventually over time, the broadcast industry started to decline. So it was time to move on. Yeah, so then I went to Rooster Teeth working on animation, and that was a completely different experience, but one that I was very excited for because there was so many cool things happening in animation, and a lot of cool opportunity to learn how to do really interesting sound design. And one of my first projects was a project called Genlock, which was a mecha anime. I'd never worked on anything of the sort before. And when I started at Rooster Teeth, basically the rest of the team was locked in on another project, Ruby, and they had to get that out because that was going out sooner. And so they kind of like just chucked me onto Genlock and was like, hey, just lay down some sounds, do what you can. So for 3 months, I was just like working on the first episode of this series pretty much by myself. Cool. And ended up doing about 80% of the episode. And so they came back on and they're like, oh, okay. Episode's like 80% done. Nice. So they helped me kind of finish out the last little bits of it. And it was a ton of like really cool experience, like basically designing the sound of that world from the ground up. And I was very fortunate to have the experience I had in that way.
Mm-hmm. So at Rooster Teeth and in your current role, you're in-house, you're like a staff employee, right? Mm-hmm. So your employer is providing access to a library of sounds in that situation, right? You've got the company is paying for your access to commercial sound libraries and things like that. When you're starting out, most people have to freelance and just hop on whatever kinds of projects they can get on. Where in the freelance world, you have to provide all that kind of stuff for yourself. You don't have an employer giving that to you. So that's one of the difficult things for people starting out in sound design. When they do have to kind of just feel things out and try to find their own clients and independent work, that can be very challenging. And getting access to good source material. That's kind of the main thing that we wanted to talk about today, because you've got a lot of great resources for getting access to good high quality source material without spending a fortune. In the old days, Sound Ideas had kind of a monopoly on things, and it was very very expensive to get access to that. Our students have you probably had access to Sound Ideas stuff when you were here as a student as well. They have access to it on Westar Online, and that's great, but that goes away after you graduate, of course. So then they've got to figure out things on their own and cobble together whatever kind of source material they can. Buying a general sound effects library is still pretty cost prohibitive. Even now it's cheaper than it used to be. But if you're going to look at Sound Ideas or like Pro Sound Effects, they've got the hybrid library, or Sound Ideas has like the 6000 series, but you're going to spend $1,000 to get a good general collection of sound effects, which is out of reach for most people just getting their feet wet in the industry. So what kind of resources do you have in your sort of list? Because I know you've got a great blog post, which I'll promote a little bit if you don't mind. I think your website's andrewvscott.com. Is that the correct URL? So you've got a great blog post there. But can you kind of walk us through your go-to things that you would recommend to a student, somebody starting out in sound design, for getting access to some good source material?
Yeah, for sure. When I was starting out, I gobbled up all the free sounds that I could get my hands on. Like, I would keep an eye out on all the spots that I could, check out all the creator pages and dig through everything. And that was like, how I was able to get a lot of really high quality sounds without having, great recording equipment and a lot of time to go out and record. Nowadays, there's a lot more affordable options that are, professionals will use. The lawn mics, Mix Pre 3. Mix Pre 3 is pretty good. Zoom F3 is even cheaper, and it's very lightweight and compact. That's a great option. But you could even get something like a handheld recorder. I have a Roland RO7. Nice. It's great. Yeah, you can plug in the lawn mics into it actually, so you have like the the onboard mics, but you can take your lawn mics and connect them and do like a drop rig or something like that.
So our students get the Zoom H5, in their launch box. So they, all the audio production students get at least a handheld recorder with the built-in XY mics, and they've got the built-in XLR inputs as well. So there is a feature on that, which some of the students may not know, that there is a 3.5 millimeter input on the XLR, or excuse me, on the XY capsule. Where you can plug in small electret mics, which is what Andrew's talking about. LOM's an independent manufacturer who makes cheap, small field recording microphones that are very sensitive, they're very high quality. There's some other competitors like Sonorous Objects and some other things.
Yeah,
but,
Sonorous is the
a lot of sound designers like these mics because they're very high quality, but they're relatively inexpensive, and you can plug them right into your handheld recorder in that 3.5 millimeter input. Just so students understand how that works, because it's not really something we talk about really in that recorder, but it's kind of a hidden feature that, yeah, there's a little 3.5 millimeter input on the Zoom H5 they could use with those kind of mics. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good option too. The lawn mics, I think they give you an option for XLR or 3.5 millimeter, but yeah, the 3.5 millimeter is easier to work with. It's a little more compact, especially if you're kind of running and gunning. So yeah, highly recommend those. I myself have the Sonorous Object SO4s, I think, which is kind of an equivalent to the LOM Uzi Pros, I believe.
I think these are the same capsules as Primo capsules. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are great. Those are high quality. Professional sound designers and recordists use them all the time for various things. We have guys like George Vlad going out into the jungle with them, and he'll sell those as on his library.
Custom recordings also, if you can do it, but there's so many times where you don't have the budget or the time to custom record, and that's where you kind of have to rely on a sound library of some sort. So what kind of free resources do you have that you can think of right away for or free or low cost for students starting out? If they don't have the ability to go out and record something specifically, what kind of resources would you point them to?
Yeah, so definitely the blog post has a lot of the free libraries that I know of, and you'll have hundreds of gigabytes of sounds from that. That comprised a lot of my library for a good amount of time starting out. And then there's also the field recording Slack, which has a freebies channel, and I've gotten an insane amount of sounds from that as well, and it's all really high quality stuff. Tons of amazing recordists dropping stuff on there every day.
There's also Sound Effects Swap is another similar resource, and I think even airwiggles.com. I think they've got a free samples channel. So there are more avenues now for getting regular free sound effects from different people that are out there just recording stuff. And that's part of the concept of crowdsourcing, which has become more popular in recent years. The idea of kind of like a Kickstarter kind of concept of everybody just gets together and records a few sound effects, and then you bring it up, compile it all together, and you've got a pretty significant collection at the end result. So, and there's different ways to go about that and different places to get access to that, but that's definitely a new way to get access to some of these sounds.
Yeah. Once you've got a recording set up to work with, the crowdsources are a great way to build up your library. There's one on the field recording Slack. There's a crowdsource channel. A new one just opened up called One and Done, which is a much easier barrier to entry, where it's always just record one set of sounds and you're good, and it's recording very specific categories. So we're doing bodies right now, bodies bumping into things. We just did drawers opening and closing. So you can kind of build out your library in these niche categories that way as well. And then I have heard of the Sound Effects Swap, which is another good one. And I think there might be one or two more floating around, but I can't remember those. So crowdsources are awesome. I would highly recommend, because that's a great way to learn how to record and see what other people are doing and ask questions and that sort of thing. and get that experience.
It's definitely better than like freesound.com, which is sort of like the resource of last resort. It's like, okay, there's stuff on there that you could use, which, it's just you have to weed through so much stuff that's not really well recorded. Like a lot of it's recorded on cell phones and things, and may not have good metadata to be able to find those sounds. So there's so many issues with free sound, which it's there. There are some sounds that you could use, but you also have to be aware of the licensing, because some sounds aren't cleared for certain applications. So that could be an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely the metadata part of it is an important thing as well. I think especially starting out, you're not going to be probably adding metadata, but down the road, it can really help because you can search your own library and find stuff much easier, and it won't get lost to time. So starting out with good metadata practices is super important. And on the field recording Slack and the technical docs, Kai Packen, I hope I pronounced his name right, has a great intro for how to do proper metadata and kind of learn more.
Because he's one of the co-creators of the Universal Category System metadata standard, which has taken on in more prominence in recent years. Relatively new in terms of the whole field of sound design, but just a good coordinated effort to try to get everybody to name their files a certain way and standardize the metadata so that you can find those sounds more easily. Students should know that the metadata in sound files is very important. It's stored in the file so that you can very quickly find the sound that you're looking for. When you've got potentially hundreds of thousands of sounds on a drive somewhere, that you're trying to search through, it can be very challenging to find the right sound. And especially when you're starting out, if you're cobbling together a lot of free resources, like I do point students to the GDC free sounds from Sonus. That's a good starting point. I think if you download all of that now, it's like 200 gigabytes of free sounds right there. But there's no standardization in terms of the metadata. It's just kind of a grab bag. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, they're professionally recorded, but different publishers will have different approaches. Not everybody's on board with UCS, unfortunately. But that's one of the hazards, I guess, when starting out and using free resources. You kind of have to, if you want to work quickly and work efficiently, you got to at least be able to manage your own sound library and maybe fix the metadata or kind of tweak it to your own needs so that you can find stuff more easily.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do as well. Is like if you find a sound and you're like, oh man, this is so useful, but harder to find. Add your own tags to it, something that'll help you find it later. Add it to a playlist or something like that. Just as you're going along, it takes an extra second to do, and it's easy to forget, but you'll be thanking yourself later.
If you can't find the sound, it doesn't really do you much good, to have it in your collection. If it never comes up in your search results when you're typing in a query, then it's not gonna help you. Our students use Western music primarily online. It's similar to like Sound Dogs, and it's a great thing to have online, but it's not the most efficient thing when you're working day to day. I mean, professional sound designers aren't pulling sounds from a website usually unless they're looking for something very specific, like, oh, I just need this one specific sound. I got to go get it and download that single thing, but then I'm going to put that in my database. So most sound designers are using some kind of database tool. I mean, SoundMiner's the industry standard, but it's very expensive and cost prohibitive. I would say for somebody starting out, maybe Soundly would be a better option with it has a low subscription fee. I think there's some
also,
other.
Basehead as well. I think has like a free option, like totally free. Soundly's low cost. I think you're pretty limited unless you pay the like $15-17 a month for that. But yeah, I haven't tried out the Basehead free organizer, but I know a lot of people use Basehead professionally as their library management tool, and they recently released a free version of that.
And Basehead was created by a Full Sail grad as well. If you don't know, Steve Tushar, I think he graduated in 1991. So Basehead's one of the top tier search tools for this purpose of being able to search and manage a large collection of sound effects, which as you're building your library, that's what you're trying to get to, having a big palette of sounds so that you're not repeating yourself. Like sound designers often have to pull from libraries for things, but you don't want to just be the person that uses the same sound effect over and over and over again. It just gets boring or repetitive. So you You always want to add new sounds and refresh things and change up how you're finding materials. But yeah, Basshead Free is a great resource. It doesn't. I don't think it comes with sounds except for like some BBC free sounds, which I think come with an asterisk, like you can't use them professionally. But these are just tools that you would need to manage and search for whatever free sound effects you might find. Which we pointed to the BBC, the GDC free sound effects. Do you think of any other ones off the top of your head that would be good to name check?
Yeah, BBC free is good.
Well, I think the BBC ones come with an asterisk, like you can't use them on pro projects.
You always want to check with these free libraries. Sometimes they require you to like put their name in the credits or something like something specific,
like attribution required.
To do. Yeah. But yeah, I think if you do get Soundly, that comes with a full library as well. There's free to use sounds, which is more ambience focused, but I think there's been a few like more sound design focused libraries.
I'm not sure if they're actually free. I think you have to pay like $1 or something, or like $15.
Yeah,
it's
like,
cheap.
It's like pretty cheap. But I think you can actually download if you like go through and download individual packs. I think it is like free.
Like they have some workaround where you can get them without paying. But
yeah, but it would be like an insane amount of work to do.
If you pay them like $20, I think they give you like 2 terabytes worth of sounds or something for. It's not that big, basically. But it's pretty big.
Yeah, so that's another good one. But
I mean, go ahead. I think we had a student question actually, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, of course.
Go ahead.
So we have Sandy K asking, what is the proper information that should be included as metadata?
Well, so UCS formatting is probably number one. Having your file name be UCS formatted means that at a very base level, it'll be able to be found if you're looking for that particular type of sound. The next thing I go towards is the description so that people know like what's happening with the sound. And then if you want, you can add keywords, which I think are great for kind of unveiling particular aspects of the sound that don't fit into the description, but maybe would make sense for a designer looking for a certain kind of thing. So, you could have a whoosh sound with a cable and it's got like a really nice tonal element that works as like a bullet buy. So in the keywords, sometimes I'll put like bullet or ricochet or something like that so that I can find it later if I'm looking for those kind of sounds.
Yeah, the UCS format, if students aren't aware, it's a standardized format for how to name sound files where the information is encoded in the file name. That's the main feature of it, where if there's no other metadata that exists, at least if you have access, if you can read the file name, you have a basic understanding of what it is. Like there's a category prefix, which will tell you what how to group that sound, and then there's a FX name that'll tell you, here's a brief summary of what the sound is, and then it'll tell you who created that sound. So all that information is encoded in the file name. And then Andrew was talking about the description field, which is kind of universal. That was the standard for years and years, where if you had nothing else, you at least need description. Like that's the main important thing. Like if nothing else, you need to have a description describing the sounds, and that's readable by pretty much any DAW or audio tool out there.
We did provide a link to the UCS in the chat. For anybody watching, check it out there.
Yeah, and include a link to Andrew's website as well, because if that's andrewvscott.com, because he's got a great blog post there with a huge list of resources for building up a sound library as a beginning sound designer, with just a lot of different links to different things in there. So definitely check that out.
We got Andrew's website, and then we also have a link to Basshead Free Edition.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to touch on with the metadata is adding your name to the designer field, or some way to find sounds that are your own sounds. So you can just quickly look for those if you're trying to do like a commercial library, for example. Over time, then you can just like go back and find everything that you've ever recorded and leverage that towards making those down the road.
If you are able to record your own stuff, that's always what people are striving for. You want to be able to have that unique fingerprint on your work if possible. That can also turn into a side gig, potentially. Like, not many people are able to do that full time, but a lot of sound designers are able to generate passive income in the process of building up their sound library, where they'll go, okay, I've recorded a ton of doors, in the course of my career. I've just got so many doors. I'm going to make a library out of this. I'm going to, assemble this and edit it well and add good metadata and package this as a sound pack that I can publish on a website like a Sound Effect or sonus.com or any of these other websites, which, those websites really helped get us out of the sort of sound ideas monopoly where, individual sound recordists were able to just sell, boutique libraries and things for $10, $20, $100, whatever it might be. And that's another potential revenue stream, for people starting out in the industry, just to get their name out there and show the, hey, I've recorded some stuff. I understand metadata. I have an understanding at a basic level of what it takes to capture good source and present it to a sound editor or designer for professional use. So that's always something that you can do where you don't need permission, right? You don't need someone to hire you to do it. Just do it. I mean, if you can do it at a high level, that's a way to at least, promote yourself as a sound designer and somebody who can, be of value, in capturing good material that others could use, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's how you edit those source files, how you use it in the context of a film. Because again, not every project is going to enable you to go out and custom record everything. So that's where, having access to this good source material is really important.
Yeah, and I would say that, regardless of where you're at as a recordist, what you feel your equipment level is and your skill level is, if you are in a situation where you're trying to find a set of sounds and you can't find a commercial library for it, or you're in a position where you have access to something kind of unique that you don't think has been recorded before, it doesn't matter what your recording skills or your equipment are, go try and record that, and you could potentially sell that library and help somebody else out, including yourself. There's always need for more unique situations and sounds, and I've been doing this for 14 years now, and there's still gaps in my library that I wish I could fill. So yeah, never be afraid to just go out and record stuff, and if you want to put up a pack, do it. It's a good way to learn.
So I guess one question I would have is, you're working in-house at Intrepid, and they've obviously got their own in-house library that you can access. How much are you custom recording that's sort of like, for that specific project, or, are you relying mainly on the sound libraries? Like, what's your mix in that sense of, custom source versus library source?
Yeah, I would say it is mostly, we're mostly relying on like Boom library stuff. That's the bulk of our libraries. And then I record whenever I can, whenever I, feel like it could really help the design I'm working on. It's kind of picking your battles, you kind of want to figure out when something can really become unique through the recording of custom source. So yeah, I mean, I record as much as I possibly can. A lot of the stuff that I use in the game is from stuff that I've done for crowdsources, where I was like, oh man, this seems like something that could pop up in the game, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this source, contribute to the crowdsource, get all of that, get access to all of that, and then also have these things for the future. So yeah, that it's mostly relying on libraries because there's just a huge volume of stuff that we have to create, and little time to create it. So yeah, there's not a ton of time to go out and on excursions as much as I'd love to. But to be honest, like when it comes to sound design, probably 90% of the sounds I've recorded for my designs were just stuff around the house, like random things, random bits and bobs here and there. Hitting the laundry machine for a nice metal impact. Like one of the coolest alien vocal sounds that I've recorded was just I have this like can crusher, and it's got like a rubber grip essentially on it, and if you grip it really tight and kind of twist, it makes like this really weird clicking, Vocaloid sound. And yeah, I was just in my house, so I just recorded it real quick, and that was like a really cool layer for this creature I was working on.
Nice. So I guess one thing that students maybe don't understand too well is like the licensing aspect of these sounds. Like we've talked about, free sound, having issues with that, and some of the other ones where like with sound effects, they're licensed, not sold. So like you don't own the intellectual property behind this sound. You're getting a license to be able to use that in your work. Like, okay, if you're hired by a film production to do the sound for their movie, like you are the one who's licensed to use these sounds that you've gathered, but you've got to be, if you're a freelancer in that situation, you've got to be able to manage your own licenses in that sense of like, okay, being aware that this particular sound that I've downloaded is CC0. This is a public domain sound effect that I'm not going to get sued if I put this sound and cut it into a movie and that sort of thing, where it's up to you in that situation to kind of manage the intellectual property. You don't want to download stuff illegally or something that you put into a movie and then you find out later you're getting sued or something. So that's something you have to be mindful of when you're starting out as a freelancer, of like making sure that all the stuff that you're gathering is cleared, is either CC0 public domain or read the fine print basically, because there's some free sources out there which might have that little asterisk of like, oh, you can't use this commercially, or it must have attribution if you use this sound and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's been some websites that have popped up recently selling very cheap, very high quality sound effects libraries, and a few of them have been outed as having non-cleared source that they used, or just like straight up like taking sounds and selling them and like reselling them. So yeah, not to scare anyone, but definitely keep an eye out. If something seems too good to be true, ask around. There are some people who can tell you like, hey, this seems like not legit. Yeah, just ask around on the forums, and yeah, always keep an eye out, and yeah, look at the end user license agreement on.
I think one that I did see on your blog was Zapsplat. So that was one that I did find from your blog, where that one seemed too good to be true to me. I hadn't heard of that before. I looked them up.
Yeah, that one's been around for a while. It used to be fully free, and it's grown a little bit more, and now you can like. I think it's a subscription thing now. I got a grandfathered in free account essentially. I might have to take that one off the free list though, because I think now you can only get it through a subscription. But I think it's Alan McKinney is the one who runs that.
Think so.
And he has a whole Discord. So I could double check with him, but I'm pretty sure that is on the level. It used to be way smaller than it is today.
Yeah. I think we have a student question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
If you list yourself as a sound designer or a great file, what systems are in place to prevent someone from copying it, packaging it up with other little-known sound designers and selling it as theirs?
I mean, to be honest, it's kind of an honor system among sound designers for the most part. I think some of the bigger companies have the pull to be able to put, like, I think Boom has started to put like
watermarking
watermarking in their sounds, but you can't really stop people from doing that. All you could do is not do that yourself and be the better person. But yeah, I mean, it would be pretty easy. One thing I'll say is, I'm never going to sell my stuff to like AI libraries or like put it in the position where it can be scraped. So yeah, definitely put like a backing track on your demos and like, make sure that you're not letting people scrape or steal your stuff.
Yeah. A lot of centers will put their material on like YouTube or something, like a promotional thing, and it's just like raw audio, which, someone unscrupulous could just rip that audio from your YouTube video or something like that if they really wanted to. Like you said, a lot of people put like background music behind it just to try to prevent that, so it's kind of mixed in. I mean, there's probably tools now to.
One of the best things is nature ambience, because we've evolved to like kind of ignore the background sounds of nature. So it's a good way to like kind of keep people from just straight up ripping your sounds from your demo, but also keep it very clear so people can hear what's going on rather than like, you know, a rock track in the background, like metal blasting or something. Like, yeah, I tend to prefer those demos where I can hear what's going on, but then that still enables you to, you know, prevent people from just scraping those.
And that's a good point to point out to students. It's not okay to just rip sound effects from YouTube videos and put that into another project. So that's not an acceptable thing to do starting out. You do need to be aware that sound effects do have copyright, just like every other type of intellectual property. Where someone spent a lot of money on equipment to go record those sounds and publish them. So hopefully the YouTube creators, whoever's using, if it's a custom sound, if like an actual recordist like George Vlad, who's going out in the world to actually promote himself and his sound effects that he's recorded, you definitely don't want to scrape that. Not that you should at all in any case, but a lot of YouTube creators might have sound effects that they've purchased from a sound library that they put in there where, they're the licensee, they're the one who hopefully bought that sound library and got the license to be able to put that into their YouTube videos. So you don't have that license to go and rip it out of their video and put it in another one, right? You've got to purchase that sound library or, use one of the free ones, right? So that's what we are pointing you to some free examples where, if just by downloading it, you then acquire that license to validly put that into a project. Just be aware, the way sound effects are licensed, they're not sold, they're licensed. So you could mix that into a movie, you could mix that into a podcast or even a song potentially, but you can't like redistribute them in most cases or try to resell them or claim them as your own, but as part of your work with a client, you can mix those in with other elements and deliver that to a client. But it's usually mixed, right? That is one thing to point out too. Like, unless it's like a common, a public domain sound effect. In most cases, if you're delivering work to a client, you want to make sure it's mixed down or bundled in some way where you're not just giving them the file, right? Because at the same time, they don't have the license you do. You're delivering a mix. You're delivering stems potentially where they can't extract the raw sounds. Because again, they're not the licensed user, you are, right? So you can deliver a mix, you can deliver a mix down, something like that.
Yeah. The rule of thumb is if you're creating a library that you want to sell, you can only use sounds that you've created yourself or generated yourself. And if you're working on a project, you can only use sounds that are specifically licensed to you because you purchased them or they were free. And the EULA says like anyone who downloads these sounds can use them. So just, be vigilant of that. And yeah, don't steal sounds.
Synths are another sticky area where if you're synthesizing your own sound, in most cases, if you're creating a sound from scratch, meaning you don't use a preset, you're the one creating an original sound using a synth, you're able to sell the resulting recording from that. In most cases, unless there's a specific clause in the license for that synth that says you can't do that. But I mean, in most cases, if you're the one creating an original sound using that synth, that's your sound that you could sell a recording of, in a sound pack or something. But keep in mind, sound designers are paid to create the presets that you use in synthesizers, so you can't record, the output of a stock preset in a synth and then claim that's your sound and sell it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a little bit of a tricky scenario, and there's also been some discussions about like, well, if you hear a sound and you could recreate it in the synth, is that yours to sell or not? And that's a little bit more tricky. Always err on the side of caution, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not like a song per se, but at the same time, it's not a good practice. Like if you're just specifically trying to recreate someone else's thing, it's like a forged painting almost. It's like you created a forgery and then you're selling it. If you're selling sound effects, you want to make sure they're original creations that you authored. And it's not derivative or something.
Yeah, and you can take inspiration from something and change it enough to where it's a different sound with the same kind of feel to it in a sense, and that generally I find to be okay.
Inspired by, not a carbon copy.
Right, exactly.
I think we have another question, if you know it.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
So I have a student here who is looking for advice for the online component of Full Sail, aiming to join the sound design world, but they do not have the on-campus networking and industry opportunities to get started in the industry. I think they're just looking for some advice on how to get started with by themselves as a solo team.
Well, I mean, definitely networking as much as you can. Talk to people, go to events, learn as much as you can. There's tons of great resources online for learning how to do good sound design, and just join every forum possible.
I think Air Wiggles is probably a good one to reference.
Air Wiggles is great, yeah, and just engage. Don't just lurk. Contribute as much as you can, and people will take notice of you, and that's a good way to really join the community and become a part of the community, is to engage.
I think Air Wiggles even has like a free conference that they have every year now, which I guess is around. I don't remember when they do it now. Is it summer? I think they do it in the summer, but
yeah.
So that should be coming up, where they have AirCon, which is a free online conference. So that's perfect for an online student. You don't have to pay to travel to a physical conference. It's all virtual. You can interact with professionals and hear from people and do different talks and things. So definitely check out airwiggles.com. There's lots of good resources in there. You can get free sound effects there as well. I think they've got a free channel on Air Wiggles, and also just promote yourself as much as possible. I do link in. I don't know if you're a student in my class or not, but in my course, I do include resources for redesigns, which is always something that people starting out have to kind of do to just promote themselves, finding the best footage possible. The Blender Open Movies is a good resource for people interested in audio post-production. Those are totally open. You can download the whole movie off of YouTube. You can strip out the audio and replace it with your own sounds and republish that online. You just have to put a little shout out. So that one does have an asterisk. You have to put a little shout out back to the Blender Foundation, but that's a resource where you can do a redesign without having to worry about copyright from the visual side of things, right? You can't just rip a DVD of a commercial movie and post that movie online. It's going to get taken down. But the Blender Open Movies are free, open source movies that you can legally, replace the audio and republish it online, as long as you, give that little shout out back to them. On the gaming side, it's a little different because people kind of post game footage all the time.
Right,
It's not the product, like a video of a game isn't a game, so they're a little more accepting of people posting footage of that. So I'm not sure the strict legality of downloading like a YouTube capture of a game, like if the YouTuber has the copyright of the recording of the game. I don't know, but there are some channels that specifically say like Games Without Music is one that I know of, where it's a YouTube channel with that you can listen to good game sound design and you can actually download those movies and replace the audio with your own sounds. But doing that kind of redesign work is, in my opinion, something you really have to do to kind of promote yourself and just show that you can do the work, that's expected in this type of job.
Yeah, and it's honestly the best way to learn. Work on the stuff that you would like to be working on professionally, and get good enough at it that you feel like, oh wow, this is like kind of comparable to either the original sound design or other redesigns that you've seen. If you're getting to that level, then you've gotten to a point where you can start pushing yourself out there and say, hey, look, I can do this.
And process videos aren't bad either. If you are recording your own custom sounds, don't just record the sound, but people like to see, the behind the scenes of how you did it. Even if it's a cell phone recording of you, operating your Zoom H5, recording different sounds. Show the before, show the after of like, okay, here's the visual that I'm going to create a source for. Here's the original sound that I recorded. Here's me recording it. Here's bringing that into my DAW, do a screen recording of that. Show you, editing it, processing it, doing all that. Where that's that's original content. That's you showing that you can do more than just pull a sound from a library, which is part of it. But if you can go beyond that and say I can record good source sounds, and I can associate them with visuals, and I can edit them professionally and sync them up well and do all of that. That's a great way to demonstrate your skill set as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, and another thing, I don't know how much time we have, but I think another big essential piece of the puzzle is creating a source folder. this you can use sounds that were licensed to you, packs that you've bought, free sounds that you've grabbed, and mangle them in a way to create something new for things that you generally work on. So yeah, I have a whole source folder that's kind of categorized, to different things that I can go to and grab that I know is going to be good quality and going to be relevant to the work that I'm doing. And you can use plugins like Traveler and Whoosh and Spin Tracer and SoundMiner Radium and stuff like that, and create whole new source out of your library. So that's a great way to build up your sounds.
Cool. Well, I think we got to wrap things up soon, Andrew. So thank you so much for your time, and be sure to check out Andrew's website again, andrewvscott.com, and he's got a great blog post there with just a ton of resources for getting free sound effects that you can use starting out. So thanks so much, Andrew, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think that's going to wrap things up for us. And be sure to check out the Audio Production Town Hall next month for a new topic, a new guest. And again, we're here every month doing the Audio Production Town Hall. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andrew. Great.
Thank you.